For us, every day is a new opportunity to make sure our first impressions are always our best and to see possibilities on the horizon, to make our facilities and services more accessible and find freedom all around us. With a location proximity to active markets, with a liberal air transportation policy, that daily pursuit is how we turn everyday opportunities for you. For all destination marketing support, customized packages for new existing airlines and operators, and for a highly ranked tourist destination, the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority is here to serve. We regulate air transport, operate and manage BIA technical requirements merged with commercial considerations. We have experienced and well-trained aviation professionals to cater for your needs. For investment opportunities in building airport hotels, shopping malls, playground for children, do contact us on 4472-831, 4472-893. Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. We go beyond daily.
Stewart and Co Solicitors, a legal excellence firm in London that can help you with all aspects of your legal work. If you are looking at immigrating to the United Kingdom, Stewart and Co can help you to set up business, buy houses in the UK, and will deal with all your legal works from start to finish.
For all your general immigration work, we can help you with that as well. If you're applying for any form of visa, whether student visas, settlement visas, marriage visas, or a child wanting to come to the United Kingdom to settle with the family, we can help you to achieve your goals.
Stewart and Co Solicitors, a legal excellence firm specializing in conveyancing, immigration, litigation, family law, personal injury, licensing, no win, no fee. Contact us today at www.sk-solicitors.com.
And do small or big projects with the same dedication and commitment as we do. With a reputation as the leading printing company in the country, when it comes to major projects and innovative solutions, we always deliver in high quality, thus receiving the trust and confidence of our clients. From the moment your order is placed to when it is delivered, we believe in exceeding expectations from the sales manager to the production team, the account manager, and the person delivering your material. We have state-of-the-art equipment and a highly experienced and competent workforce that enables us to deliver top-quality work on time. At reasonable prices, we provide our clients with multiple solutions right from conceptualizing, designing, printing, binding, publishing, and distribution. For all your printing requirements, we are strategically located at the Sankumsila Highway, the Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation. We print what you desire.
Introducing Gamcell Corporate Internet for home use. Seaview, everyone at home can be online at the same time and for less than you think.
Now daddy can be home early and mommy and dad with the family can all have fun together.
You can now complete your work at home with our stable, secured and super fast home broadband fixed wireless internet.
Home internet couldn't be faster.
Download, stream videos, research, play games, learn online and work from the comfort of your home.
You can do with the internet.
Join Gamcell Seaview today and enjoy the fastest home wireless broadband internet at an affordable monthly subscription.
Gamcell, creating a brighter future in communications.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Kerr Fatou. Of course, tonight is a very special edition. It's going to be a special interview with Nyima because we have not had her on our show for 2 years. So having her to end this season will be a great opportunity. Madam Vice President, welcome to Kerr Fatou.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up on Kerr Fatou.
I went to the president and in our conversation, what he said is that he removed me because I had written a letter to the UN signing it acting president. and that was unconstitutional and it was undiplomatic. That was the advice he got from his present Minister of Foreign Affairs and the former Vice President Ousainou Darboe.
Dr. Tangara
and Ousainou Darboe.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcell's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcell, Yaibaram.
Nyima, so we have the Vice President, the former Vice President, who is also the chairperson of Coalition 2016. And of course, you know what is going on. It's all about Coalition 2016. And of course, the mandate of the president, and there's been a lot of conversations. But I think it's important we talk to stakeholders about this very important issue, the coalition, you know, how it came about. In fact, this is our first time talking to her. We also talked to her about you know, when she was in office, and also some very serious national issues. So it's an honor to have Madam Vice President to have us in her house today. Today we are in Tambajang, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about this interview because it was a long time coming. We haven't heard from you since you left office. When you were in office also, there have been issues that happened. You might have been involved in certain programs that we want to know how those things have taken place and what achievements you have achieved. I think people are also excited about the fact that the Coalition 2016 has resurfaced and it's now become a national discourse, what has been pronounced, especially very recently. So myself and the viewers out there would be excited to know about what you think or what your views on those issues are.
So we'll start with it. Just like I said, since we have not ever had her on our show, I think it will be good just to have you talk about you know, when you were in office. As the number 2 person, after taking away dictatorship in this country, it was a very crucial point in our country's history. You know, the whole world looked up to Gambia. So many opportunities were open for this country. A lot of people said, did we handle it well? But you were number 2 in the country. Let's just have your perception as to how did it feel at that point, taking up that role as the Vice President of the Gambia?
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I must thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who grants everything to everyone, and he does it at his own time. It's a great privilege to have served my nation, my country, even though I still serve my country, and I think that's my mission. When I became the number 2 in government, transition government, I came with a mission, which is to support the government, which is a national coalition government, to support the government to deliver the promises that the leader, His Excellency Adama Barrow, had given to the people during the campaign, and also to deliver within the context of the National Development Plan 2018 and 2021. And that worked for me. That was my focus, even though I knew that we were going to work in a very complex political, economic and social context, having lived for 22 years under autocratic rule. It's like post-conflict. The government inherited a broken economy. The social fabric was fractured. People were not talking to each other, friends, family members, and so forth. There was excessive human rights abuses, which needed justice. The land grabbing, we all know what happened. There was this massive scrambling for embezzlement by the former dictator and his associates. And you look at the judiciary, there was no justice. The autocratic dictator was mainly the face of everything. He was justice. There was no independence of the judiciary, no independence of the executive, and no independence of the legislature. He was everywhere. It was he called the tune and played the tune, and half other people played the tune. So it was a very complex situation. The civil service was very weak. The capacity was very weak, because we all know that the civil service was who you know, and mainly within the government of the former president. It was politicized. The military was politicized. It was the face of the dictator. We know that the excessive now, the evidence is there. The TRRC shows the excessive abuse of the security forces, particularly in the military, in the armed forces, which was used as a tool to intimidate and to violate the rights of people. You had, when you went to the prisons, a lot of people were waiting for trial for so many years. Some were incarcerated outside the constitution. They say 72 hours, but people were there 3 and so many months. This is what the situation we inherited. And what we needed to do was not only to focus, and of course we had the impasse.
Yeah.
The complexity was crowned by the impasse, where the coalition government won, and after accepting defeat, he went back and said he wasn't going. Fortunately, we were able to really play maturely in terms of having all our supporters, not to stand up to say, yes, we have voted, yes, we are protecting our votes, because we thought that would bring chaos to the country. So fundamentally, we didn't find anything in the treasury. I can remember we found only 1 month income cover, which is purely inadequate to even pay salaries, not to say to take care of the other development priorities. So we had to run as soon as possible, work together, in a concerted effort through cabinet and through other stakeholders with our development partners. We raised 60 million from the European Union, 40 million from the World Bank, and the UN also was behind, and Islamic Development Bank. All the partners came on board, the African Development Bank, to see what best they can do for us. Our change is a model, and I would say that encourage everybody to hold on to that model in terms of having a transition government of 22 years peacefully, in a very transition and very peaceful way. It's not, you don't see it everywhere and you don't hear it everywhere. So people came, and so after we worked very hard to get the National Development Plan, which is of course a plan that was the National Reform Agenda that was adopted unanimously by the stakeholders as a National Reform Agenda, which is just what I have said: land reform, judiciary, civil service, constitutional, electoral, and also civil service, security reform also. So we worked very hard to put everything together. And while we put that together, and then in 2018, the EU and the UN system sponsored the government to have a roundtable conference in May in Brussels, and that was successful. We were able to mobilize 1.4 million, but I always tell people the 1.4 million is in form of pledges, not cash or no projects. And as of now, I think it's about 20 to 30% that has been received so far in terms of projects and so forth. Now, after that, in between also we had a lot of crisis, social crisis. We all know about the Kanilai crisis. There were sporadic security issues. We know Busumbala, the political crisis in Busumbala. We had in Burfoot. We also had in Faraba, which was the most recent that we had the doctors, we had the teachers. So every sector of Gambia, there were too many crises that to the extent that we had to really, it's a democracy, we had to really change the mentality of our people, advocate for them to live in cohesion, to live peacefully, to support each other, and to support the government to deliver its agenda.
So I wanted to come in there. You mentioned the NDP attracting 1.4, and also also acknowledging that only about 20% came in. Recently, the strategic department of the Office of the President did say that the monies are not forthcoming. Do you think the government's unable to handle this crisis properly is the reason why some of the donor partners are holding back? Because, you know, just like you said, most of these grants and loans are attached to conditions, good governance, how people handle corruption. Recently, the government has been labeled as not fiscal discipline when it comes to financial transactions. So procurement issues and others, you know, the IMF and others have some concerns about how things are handled. Do you think that must have played a role in getting some of these pledges come on time?
From the professional point of view, I would see two reasons, main reasons. One is the weak capacity in government to be able to translate the pledges into projects. Because prior to even mobilizing the resources, we had started to have a framework within which we can coordinate, start developing projects so that as soon as the pledges come, we can run and follow up in terms of following up to get the projects up and going. That's number one. Number two, the financial indiscipline, which has been spotted by the the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and the IMF, is something they have seen, and government is addressing it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes another person outside to see what is wrong. And the good thing is they are addressing it at the point of the Minister of Finance at some point has had a series of discussions, a series of conversations, also in workshops and so forth, to say that they are doing their best. Just as I said, the capacity, the limited capacity in government hinges over the performance of government. So they have to, fortunately, one thing we have achieved is that there has been a staff audit. So many ghost workers who were on the payroll. And there have been some assessment that have been made by the African Capacity Building Program, which I negotiated for on behalf of government with the support of Gambian, very well-known Gambian called Dr. Abdoulaye Jane, who is now the executive director of Mo Foundation. He has an extensive wealth from the UN, from EC and so forth. And when I went to Addis, I took advantage of that with my little experience in the UN to urge the African capacity building to come and help us assess capacities, institutional capacities, human capacities, to see how they can help us, have a reform agenda of the civil service. And they did that. And up till now, I'm yet to see the implementation of those recommendations. This is within even Africa. So many things happen. We have assessment, but the capacity, the political will is there, but the capacity to deliver, to translate those recommendations into operational activities that are impactful to the society is sometimes difficult. So it's good that partners are telling us what is wrong and how they don't even do. One thing I like with partners, after working with them for 28 years, they tell you what is wrong and they recommend. They help you. In terms of if there is a capacity gap, they are willing to come and help you build that capacity so that you can move forward. So development is a process. If everything goes good, then there is no governance. It's because things are not going that you need to have a government that would provide that leadership in ensuring the well-being of Gambians. At the level of the good governance, we have seen so much happening, positive things that have happened. We have had the constitutional review. Despite the limited resources in government, we have had a tremendous progress in terms of the Constitutional Review Commission. Is ongoing, and we are very hopeful because we have a competent leader who has sacrificed to leave his job in the Caribbean to come and just contribute to the process. And we also have a capacity. We have an illustrious son of this country, Justice, His Lordship, Justice Hassan Jallo, who is the Chief Justice now, who is also the leader of this constitutional reform. You have also Gambian, an illustrious son also, Batambedu, who is also heading the Ministry of Justice. So these people together have been able to launch within a very limited time, with limited resources. They've been able to establish the Constitutional Reform Commission. Now you also have the Land Reform Commission. The commission has been launched, but is yet to be operational. And I can assure you it's because of limited resources. You have the TRRC, which is of course a landmark. This is where everybody is assuring to the nation that something that has happened for so many years is now coming to light. All the atrocities, all the human rights abuses that have been inflicted upon innocent Gambians is now coming to light. And people are ensuring that we know we want peace and we want reconciliation, but there must be justice. And this is the justice that is eventually going to, all these things that are going to happen is going to, of course, have a legal dimension. And for me, I would have thought that we would have had a special court, like in Sierra Leone. After 7 years of war, they had the Truth and Reconciliation. And in line with the Truth and Reconciliation, you have a special court, which will deal with the legal issues. Because I don't think you could just say that, well, I committed so many atrocities and just go that way.
Right. I just want to come back to comment on the reforms that are ongoing. We know that this was the coalition's mandate, the coalition government's mandate, when they campaigned on the agenda to reform the institutions that are necessary to usher us into what is to be known as the New Gambia. We have seen the Janneh Commission have completed and they have sent in their results. And although the process can be good and we can assess the process, but what is important to measure any process's success will be the outcome. So when the Janneh Commission came out and recommendations were made, people were expecting that the recommendations would be followed to the latter, because it took an entire process that unfolded on TV to reach those recommendations. So when we see, for example, a scenario where certain people who are in the same category as others are being handed certain punishment, and others have been allowed to continue to serve in the government without having to face the same kind of punishment that has been meted out on their mates. What would be your opinion on that? Would that be a success of that particular reform or otherwise?
From the coalition point of view, I would have expected that the report be submitted to the coalition for an opinion. We are not legal experts, but everybody knows, everybody can read and everybody can interpret. It's not difficult. That has not happened. Now, of course, that is a missed opportunity for the coalition. Secondly, from the professional point of view, and as a person, I would have expected that the recommendations made by the Commission be implemented to the letter and the spirit. That is my professional point of view. And for me, I don't want to compromise my integrity with anything that is not right. I speak out for the country. I stand for the country. And hence, I'm in the coalition. I support the government, and I'm supposed to support the government. You cannot be in a system and undermine the system. But when the truth comes, you have to speak the truth.
And then that brings the argument that what's the point of all of these commissions if the government is just going to
cherry pick
what recommendations they act on. For example, the TRRC, like the Commission of Inquiry, we have seen everything unfold on television. The TRRC, we have seen everything on television. Individually, even without a legal mind, we know who did what and who did not do what. For taxpayers to pay all of these monies to have these commissions, it's not just to follow the process, but it's also to you just spoke about justice. If we cannot have justice, what's the point of having these commissions? Because even the CRC now, people are worried. If the Commission of Inquiry can go this way, the TRRC, the junglers have been released, and when the recommendations comes, who knows what is going to be the executive's position, and then the CRC. So what's the point of all of these commissions if we're not going to have the recommendations implemented?
I would expect that a sensitive issue like the TRRC is going to be implemented to the spirit and letter because it's highly sensitive. People have lost their lives. They've lost the lives of their relatives, husbands and wives and all. And for it to be taken and not to be implemented, I don't foresee that happening in the Gambia. I don't foresee that happening in the Gambia. Yeah. And we are working very closely with the government, and we are going to give our best of advice as the political body. I always say that we are his constituency. He doesn't have any constituency other than the coalition. So, and he's willing to listen to us, to give our own humble opinion on things that are happening in terms of governance. It is not we didn't go out for changing a regime. We went to change a regime and the system of governance, and particularly democratic governance, where everybody, no one is going to be left behind. It's going to be inclusive. It's going to be more listening to people, not all the time what they want, but what is good for the country is most important. So for the constitutional reform also, it's something we have been yearning for 22 years. We know that the constitution was a one-man show, and it was really substandard constitution, which is, it was in line with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, nor was it in line with any human rights instrument that was not only ratified by government, but also domesticated by government. So these are things that are very sensitive areas, and we think that Gambians have a responsibility. It's a mutual accountability. We have a responsibility not only to say things don't work, but also to contribute to advocating for things to work. And if need be, challenging people in authority in terms of dialogue, through dialogue and conversation, as we are doing now, so that we can all ensure that we have a better Gambia.
Yeah. So during your tenure as Vice President, what would you say were the biggest achievement that you were able to achieve as a Vice President, especially Women's Affairs Minister as well?
For me as a Vice President, my achievement was to contribute to providing guidance to Cabinet, because I used to chair and I used to do a lot of work in Cabinet, just to support my colleagues and also to learn from them, because no one knows everything. But I used my experience of 28 years in UNDP to ensure that we were really doing the best in the interest of the country. I was also responsible for coordinating the government business agenda, which is ensuring that there is institutions know what other institutions are doing, so that there is coordination. I ensured also that women, I advocated, I championed the cause of women each time. And I can remember when I was in Cabinet, each time I talk about women or gender, my colleagues will be looking at me and perhaps saying, here she comes. But I believe in it. Not because I'm a woman, but I know that it's good for the country. Using the 52%, empowering women means empowering the country, because we are an asset to be reckoned with. We are dominant in all the sectors of the economy. You go to agriculture, you go to fisheries, you every part of the economy. We are the mothers, custodian of tradition and culture. We are the carers of communities. We are we make and break kings. We are the majority of the electorate. So it's a human capital. It's a capital, an asset that to be reckoned with. So what I did was to ensure that everything that we had, even if I didn't succeed in having women there, their voices were heard, which is a step ahead. And I made sure that the Convention on All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that be a pillar, a guiding force for government to know that they have ratified the convention in 1991 and they needed to really implement it, because the weakness in countries in governance is the issue of implementation, enforcing laws. We have beautiful policies, good policies, sound policies, but when they don't work, then they're just paper. What I did was also to ensure that there was an element, a women's agenda in the national agenda. If you look at the women's agenda, empowering women through entrepreneurship, and I would say proudly also say that I was part of I pioneered the Women Enterprise Fund that was recently launched through negotiation with the EU, which was followed by a consultancy and a report, and then now we have fund to support the economic empowerment of women. I also encourage women organizations, civil society, an organization like GAUFA, Gambia Women's Finance Association. It has 50,000 women. You multiply that by an average of 9 in a family. That's a lot. We established it in 1987. I'm a founder member and the first treasurer. And it's providing microfinancing and business capacity building to women. I ensured that there was inclusion, that civil society became a partner. In other countries, there are always adversaries, always fighting each other. But for us, and also fortunately for me, I was able to champion peace, and I really saw that it worked. Everybody knew that I was given the privilege by His Excellency President Adama Barrow to broker the peace when the doctors went on strike. When Faraba had the issue, Burfoot, when His Excellency had traveled, so many teachers everywhere, I like peace. I think my mission in life is peace. That's why I cannot really do anything other than peace. I also represented His Excellency, which I appreciated, at a lot of head of states summit in ECOWAS, in African Union, and according to His Excellency, he was always told that I performed well, because I cannot assess myself regardless of what experience I have, but other people told him and he told me. And that was also to sell the Gambia. I usually use the opportunity to sell the Gambia. I went to Turkey, and surprising enough, I brought Turkish airline here in this Gambia. When I went, when I'm going, I talk to my boss, His Excellency Adama Barrow, and I tell him that, well, when I go, this is what I want to do, and he would say, go ahead and authorize me. So when I went to ask the presidency there that we needed a Turkish airline to come to the Gambia, because it was going to Dakar all the time. So I encouraged them to have a hub here. And I'm happy, and thank God that today Turkish airline is making 3 flights to the Gambia. When I came, I reported back to him, and then they needed some data. I helped to coordinate the data with the GIA and the CIA, Civil Aviation. They provided all the logistic, all the technical expertise and so forth. And today, I can sleep to say that the coming of Turkish airline in this country today is through the support of His Excellency President Adama Barrow. But I technically negotiated it to the highest level. So I thank that. I think that's an achievement.
Yeah.
My other achievement is the OIC. Yes. The OIC, 57 member states of the Muslim Ummah. We encourage them to come to Gambia, to have the summit in Gambia. they were contemplating as to whether we are just coming from 22 years dictatorship, whether we should have it in Gambia or have it somewhere. And I stood up and I just advocated. I championed the cause. I supported my president to the fullest so that they can have the OIC. And finally, today we are happy. And I went with the authority of the president. I went to look for I set up that secretariat. I went to identify the secretariat. We recruited people. We had a management team was recruited, and they also recruited the administrative staff support. And today, before I left, the government was able, through my facilitation, with the support of the diplomatic embassy in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, we were able to raise $3 million for the Gambia, and that was to start up the operation of the OIC. And the OIC is going to bring. We also set up a board. I was able to facilitate the setting up of a board, which is a structure that will guide the operations of the secretariat.
So and the OIC looks like since you left, I know you set up you were the chairperson of also the board of directors, and you were able to set up the secretariat and raise some funds. In fact, recently they also signed a 90 million loan grant from the Saudi Arabia. But then, are you certain that Gambia will host the OIC? Because we postponed one time, now it's 2021 or 2022, but we have seen the high-level resignation from the OIC Secretariat in Banjul. Do you think that will slow down the way things are going to? Are we able to achieve for the 2022 target?
Yes. You know, the reason for postponement was the fact that we have inadequate infrastructure. The Arab world is rich, they have everything. For us, the infrastructure, can you imagine bringing 57 heads of state in a country? That's huge infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure. So what we did was, they decided on the date that they want 2019 to host it. But we said, I was there, I was the chair, I encouraged His Excellency the President to ask them to come for an assessment mission. And when they came for the assessment mission, they realized, they said, okay, we can host it. I said, Your Excellency, we cannot host it, we don't have the infrastructure. And so we dialogued with them. Finally, they agreed that they would have it 2022. So Saudi Arabia took over, and then we will be having it in 2021. There have been resignations in the OIC, and for me, it was a concern because for continuity and for the type of capability that we had, we needed to stabilize the secretariat and so that we can deliver the agenda that we had. But like this, that's life. Yeah. He resigned on his own accord. They have replaced him. They've got now a CEO, and they will continue I'm expecting that they will continue to deliver the agenda. Yeah. And I will not rest just to say because I'm out of government. I'm in the coalition, and I want my government to succeed. So if we realize anything that is really going to derail the cause, we will advise His Excellency the President.
Yeah, but the problem though is you mentioned infrastructure being one of the main reasons why the 2019 summit did not happen. Prior to the date, there were chances where the infrastructural development could have taken off, and it didn't. So when 2019 came and we were told the OIC was not going to hold, we knew that efforts that could have been made before the date arrived were not there. So you expect that if an extension is achieved to mean that in 2022 we could have the summit, you would expect that by now something would have started. But up to this point, we're not seeing anything on the table. Is that cause for optimism?
It is cause for optimism for the mere fact that we did not start, the government did not start because of funding. You know, a lot of countries have pledged, a lot of money has been pledged for the OIC infrastructural development. We have seen the International Center for Conference Center, which will be almost completed very soon. But in terms of infrastructure, the money hasn't come, and this is why I take you on your point where you are saying it's recently that they signed a loan agreement of 90 million. So it was also funding. Now what we would need to advocate is for government to aggressively follow up these pledges so that they can get the money and just start the infrastructural development after the rains. But the plans are already there. We have a competent Minister of Transport and
Works and Infrastructure.
Works and Transport, by Lamin Job, Honorable by Lamin Job. He's highly experienced, worked with the World Bank and other countries, and I can assure you that the plans are there. So after rains, when the money is available, and they will start something. So you will be. I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. Yeah, it's always good to be optimistic. You can identify the weaknesses in an institution or in capacities, but then as being part and parcel of a system, you have a role to play in terms of advocacy, advice, and so forth.
So you mentioned a few achievements that you have that could be registered through your efforts when you were in government, and we commend you on that.
Thank you.
We are also aware of the times where you have initiated programs or projects, especially with the establishment of a think tank, which many people were expecting that it would yield dividend because of the fact that every government needs the intellectual assets of their country to provide strategy for the way forward. But we have seen that even though resources have been pumped into that project, it didn't work. Why do you think that was the case?
Unfortunately, I'll tell you that not even one dime of government went into that think tank.
But resources went there regardless.
I mobilized resources from the Chinese. They gave us computers and those vehicles that are going.
Was that free?
Yeah, free.
Okay.
Grants. As a development practitioner and knowing the system, how it works, the last resort would be to ask for loans. My last resort for me is to ask for grants. There are so many grants. What you need is just the creativity, the aggressivity, and
but regardless of that, the resources was given to the country and not just to an individual.
Yes.
So if the project is going to fail, it's going to be regrettable that those resources could have been spent elsewhere.
Well,
so
we had computers and only cars, and I even refused for us to have an office outside the premises of the State House. So the office that initially we had was within the premise of the State House so that we don't pay. And that was the same reason I went to identify the petroleum house for the OIC, because we know we don't have resources, and being number two, my responsibility is to ensure that I support the presidency in ensuring that the taxpayers' money goes to something that would impact on the lives of our people. Yeah. So we did that. Now the think tank is my baby. It's something that I like, and I think it can work, and I am going to pursue it with...
Why do you think it didn't work though?
Yeah, it didn't work because I left government.
Okay.
Sometimes when things happen, when you start something and you leave, hardly it works. But the system was there, everything was there. But I guess perhaps people are so busy that they don't think they can, because it's one extra work for me. But I thought that that would work. It would have really helped government to be a part and parcel of the reform process, civil service. And we had some achievements. We made some achievements. The think tank supported the consultant, the very able consultant, Dr. Ahmad Tijan Jallo, who was the lead consultant for the NDP. They supported him in terms of reviewing the National Development Plan under my supervision. And we provided inputs, contributions, and we met on different bases. When there was any issue in government, we would discuss it and send an opinion by way of advice to the presidency. So one thing that I would like to do is to continue to engage the presidency and provide my little advice as to how the national think tank can work. There were some misconceptions at different levels about think tank. People thought that think tank was going to be a quasi-government or it was going to duplicate the work of the civil service. Even America has think tank. Many countries that are moving, you go to Singapore, you go to Malaysia, just go to Google and type think tank. You will see so many countries are using that. And what it does is to bring on board the idle asset, human capital that we have to complement the efforts of government. They could do research, they could help them, and the plan we had was to help government to define a vision, to have vision 2030 or 2050, to have a sort of like a blueprint that we will do work with in line with in consultation with the Ministry of Finance and all the institutions. And they are Gambians. There is idle capacity. You cannot really say Gambia 1.8 million compared to asset. We have more human capital than many countries, even larger countries. You go to any system in the world, you find Gambians in highly placed position. So we need a lot of advocacy for people to know the use of think tank. Recently, I've seen an organization, some Gambians who have come together to bring a replica of the national think tank. They don't call it think tank, but for me it's think tank. But it's important that government maintains that think tank. And I had already engaged the Islamic Development Bank, and they were willing to support the institutionalization of the national think tank. So it's something, it's dormant, because that's how I feel. It's because I was there, the pioneer, and I was there, commitment to see that it works. Now I'm not there. I don't see anybody picking it up.
So that's the problem with some African government. Somebody initiates a project, when they leave, it's difficult to.
It's being personalized.
Projects are personal. People don't take over because this is somebody's. But your departure, though, let's talk about your departure. When you became vice president, this came at a time when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf left the presidency. A lot of people in the sub-region looked at you as the face of the sub-region in women leadership. And even in the Gambia, you were looked at as the mother of the nation. You know, the person, we all looked at you as the one who, when things were hard and tough, she would come and talk to us with that demeanor.
The brain behind the coalition.
Mother, you know, so it became a big surprise when you were relieved. People were shocked. People were worried, and there was no explanation. We were like,
yeah, and not to forget, even nationally, a lot of efforts went into having you as the vice president, to a point where the constitution needed to be amended to accommodate for you.
Even when that argument was going on, a lot of people were like, no, we wanted her to be there. It doesn't matter whether the constitution says this or not, because of the role you played in getting everybody together. That's what we saw. What was the reason of your removal? Did you know it must have been something serious for somebody like you, your statute, the role you played, to just be removed like that?
I know. For me, at the beginning, I never knew why I was removed.
Yeah.
But it was important for me to know why I was removed.
Yeah, good.
And I went to the president, and in our conversation, what he said is that he removed me because I had written a letter to the UN and signing it acting president. And that was unconstitutional and it was undiplomatic. That was the advice he got from his present Minister of Foreign Affairs and the former Vice President, Ousainou Darboe.
Dr. Tangara and
Ousainou Darboe. And the president had asked me whether I wrote that letter, but he didn't show me the letter. So I said, no, I didn't write such a letter, because he said the UN. And the letter I wrote is UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. It was a Gambian who applied for a job. And he came to ask for the support of the presidency. And because the president, he was away, he had traveled and he had mandated me to act. And I did not see anything in the constitution that says that I shouldn't sign on his behalf. I signed, I made a very good recommendation. I don't know the boy's mother, I don't know his parents. I did it out of being a Gambian and out of authority that the president had given me based on our discussions, that when we see our children, the Gambians, young Gambians, aspiring to get into international organizations, we should help them. So that, because when they go there, it's Gambia's name. And when we need something as a country, when they are there, they will help us. So afterwards, he brought the letter. He brought the letter and showed it to me and said, well, you had said you didn't sign this. Did you sign this? I said, this is my signature, but this is UNEP. It's not UN. Because the conversation on the social media was that I wrote a letter to the UN asking His Excellency to leave office after 3 years. That was what they gave him. You understand? And but the crux of the matter was that the foreign minister, Dr. Tangara, Mamadou Tangara, had an issue with me. What is the issue? We had traveled to America with $32,000 for 2 weeks, commission on the status of women. And
by this time, what was Tankara's position?
Tangara was the ambassador
at the UN
in the UN.
At the time. Yeah. Okay.
So my permanent secretary and the accountant general transferred money to their account, $32,000, for my 2 weeks accommodation, transportation, and also logistics and administrative support. That's like when we're printing our documents, we are this thing. So, but within the 2 weeks, the president, His Excellency, had told me to come home because he was traveling. He wanted me to be home to wait for him. I said, okay. So when I came after 1 week, I decided I told my permanent secretary that she should ensure that the monies we spent for the week, I should know, so that the balance of the money will be sent back to the Gambia, to the treasury. Because I am one person that doesn't like a dime from anybody. I've never stolen anybody, and I have been in the UN in charge of budgets, and never ever did they lose a dime, a dollar. And having stood for change in governance, I don't expect myself to go with money and then come and not account for it. So when my permanent secretary went to him, he said to my permanent secretary that he had spent $21,000 on vehicle rentals. I told my permanent secretary, I said, he must be joking. Please tell him that I want that money back to the treasury. So in between, he came back to say that, well, he has gone to the rentals, car owners, and the car owners say they are going to give us a discount of $5,000, which means we should pay $18,000. I told my permanent secretary, does it make sense? I did not go into any vehicle that was rented. It was not a rental vehicle. It was a small car, the office car, with no respect to the office of the VP. He gave me a small car, a four-seater car, and that's the office car. That was the office driver. The other van was the office driver, and the van was the office van. So what is the justification? When my permanent secretary went to him, he said that, well, they use the rental cars and we use because they gave us the office car. Does that make sense? I told her that even if it is a helicopter that we hired, it cannot be $21,000. I want the money back. And the accountant general, when I did my personal research, the chancellery didn't know about the money. The financial attaché didn't know about the money. So where is the money? You see, so because of that, he took that to use it to victimize me, vendetta, personal vendetta, to engage the president to say that, well, this woman is in a haste. They had gone to the point of convincing him that I was in his for his position. Because he also mentioned it somewhere, and I heard it.
The president
mentioned that often. Yes, that I was in his for his position. You know, people can instigate you to the point where sometimes you say things that you don't know that that really would make you hurt another person. The president knows that I am never in his for anything.
Yeah.
I have never.
So you mentioned something.
So what? Let me finish. And he was looking forward to being Minister of Foreign Affairs. So every time, for him, he was eyeing to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, and there was no way they can put former Vice President Ousainou. They brought Ousainou to my position, and then took him to Foreign Affairs. But that will haunt him.
So what you're saying is a very serious claim.
It is.
So we have a serving minister who could be accused of corruption.
Of course.
Are the relevant authorities aware of this?
Of course. I went to the president and I explained to him. What I'm telling you, I sat with His Excellency the President, and I told him, I said, Your Excellency, I did this writing of letter, signing acting president. It didn't spoil the constitution. It was not diplomacy. And I didn't lie. If I lied, it was going to be a question of trust.
Is it even wrong to sign as acting president? If you are in an acting
Why would the president believe them over you?
Well,
that is the question.
Yes, they believed him. But for me, I think it's just politics.
Yeah.
But why do you think the president believed them?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why he believed him.
This is serious, though.
I don't know why he believed him. Today is the first time I have had the opportunity to say it, and I'm saying it, and I stand to be, he can challenge me anywhere. The records are there. I understand now he has been asked to pay back that money.
Wow.
Yes, I understand government system is asking him to pay the money. Because this is a small country. People know that I have been victimized for nothing. Now people know he's been asked to pay back the money.
Yeah. When you were relieved from your position as VP, the same letter that suggested or that said you were being relieved also said you have been reappointed into the Foreign Service. Was that true, and why did you decline?
Yes, it is true. I declined it out of principle. I cannot move from Vice President and go and be answerable to Permanent Secretary. I don't deserve it. I've worked for my country, I've stood for my country. If they cannot give me anything other than ambassador, I say no. And it's my constitutional right to say no. I have a dignity. I worked with the UN for so many years. I was beyond ambassador. And then coming to work under Tangara as a minister, and he was the planner. He was who victimized me, worked against me, and then wanted me to work under him. He will be the minister and I'll be ambassador over my dead body. I am not that desperate for anything. I can live forever without being in government.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, this is a serious revelation.
Yeah.
And to think that the president knows about this to the point that the minister has been asked to pay for this money and he's still in cabinet. Your Excellency, that shows a lot of lack of will in this government
to fight against corruption.
Well, I no comment on that. I'm just telling you what happened to the letter, what happened. And I have witnesses. The Gambia Commission in New York is there. The Accountant General's office is there. And I had mentioned it to Ousainou Darboe, former Vice President.
Yeah.
I mentioned the issue to him.
What did he say when you mentioned that?
I just mentioned to him, I said, look, your ambassador has done so and so, and I want you to rectify it. I want you to call him personally and rectify it. I never had any action before I left. I also brought it to the attention of the former Secretary General, Mr. Habib Drame. I brought it to their attention, but no action was taken. And up till now, he's in government.
Wow. This is very interesting. We'll take our first commercial break. When we come back,
we talk about the coalition.
I guess the first part already is really interesting. So we'll take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at the status of the coalition. And of course, the mandate that the coalition has to extend the president's term to 5 years. We'll take our first commercial break.
Coming up on Kerr Fatou.
I'm in no competition with Halifa Saleh. I started knowing Halifa Saleh and working with Halifa Saleh when the coalition started. I've known him many years, but I've never worked with him. So he should stop explaining to people. There is no need to explain. He can continue his self-aggrandizement.
Sam pap deena déedéet daf ma yónni woon ma suyal ko pay bi waaw yàlla def mu gagné jàppoon $100,000 la gagné
la ilaha illallah
te yow xam nga ne sama papa dafa amee cardiaque
yow da ngaa dof yow xam nga luy $100,000
am naa ko kay man naa lu ñëw bëggoon nga dimbali ci
demal na nga def damaa toog rek sama xel mi ne ci yow xam nga bërki démb li daal si benn waay fee waaw ma romb ko rek bërki démb waaw muy yuuxu di tëb ma ni kii lu ko dal ñu ne ma daal ci loto gaming Gambie bi la laal
jar na ko
laal na ci lu di waaw
nga dafa am quarté am kente am tiercé waaw maanaam nag tey jii kente bi la te jackpot bee passé xaalis
kente mooy lan
kente maanaam mooy juróomi fas yi
waaw beneen bi
am na quarté mooy ñeenti fas yi ak tiercé tey nag xaalis bi daa gën a yokk
lu tax
ndax jackpot bële dañ kaa tegaat ci bii maanaam juróomi fas yi boo ko jàppee ci ordre mooy risque nga désordre bi sax day fay bu ma ko jàppoon
yooyu moom noonu la demee da ngay dem rek jouer
am na lu ma yaakaar
man gis naa seen kii yi keesku yu ndaw yi ci biir dëkk bi mais daal dama ni lii moom amul xaalis da nga ciy def sa xaalis
day jël wecce rek sànni ko fa xool jëmbat la laa ilaha illallah yow li nga wax ni tey ji bu yàlla dogaloon ma gañe ko lu mu gàtt
fi mu toll nii boo gañe woon $100,000
waaw lu may def
waaw nooy def
xam nga yow sama xarit nga
waaw
damay fexe nga rey say noonu
ci nan
lu mu gàtt $50,000
waay
Thierno woowee ambulance
lan la lu xew ni
sa baay gay dee na
sama papa gay lu ko rey
$100,000 ne ko boo ma gàññaloon si li ma la yónni dama ko koy jox mu daanu ni sama kaw
man waxuma ko mu waxee woon la ko noonu yow la ko waroon informé ndax yow yaa ko gagné yaa gagné jàppoon.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful Seaview and Lakeview. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
fay lempo warugal la si képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga ak ñu fi dëkk bu fekkee ne ci at mi sa koom-koom weesu na $20,000 mbete weer bu nekk di nga am lu tollu si $2,000 lempo si la nguur gi di sukkandeku ngir liggéey yokkute réew mi GRA mooy banxaas bu nguuri Gambia sas ngir mu fayeku lépp luy lempo ci biir réew mi ba tax na GRA di yëgal faykati lempo yi ne warugal la pour ñu fay lu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment maanaam bépp contrat bu waay joxe te si biir réew mi la ñu toog kon xaalis si contrat bi ngeen nangotoo war nga cee wàññi ci xayma téeméer bu nekk fukka bu fekkee ne contracto bi dëkkut ci biir réew mi bu boobaa di nga war a wàññi téeméer bu nekk fukka ak juróom lii mooy lempo bu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment lii mooy lempo bi nga xam ne yow mi joxe contrat warugal la nga wëlbatiku dem fay ko ci maakaani GRA tax office bu la gën a jege mbete ci banque yi GRA jagleel pour fay lempo war ngaa jéebal lempo bi si diiri fukki fan ak juróom gannaaw bi nga wàññee ci xaalis si contrat bi amul benn contracto bu ñu teggil fay lempo bi xanaa mu fekk ne nguuri Gambia ñoo ko jéegale boole si projet yi nga xam ne mbootaay ndimbali ñoo koy dépense GRA di fayeku lempo ngir yokkute réew mi
Welcome back to part 2 of this interview. Nyuma, I think it's important that the Vice President is speaking from her heart, especially about things that happened, how she was removed. Because when she was removed, so many things really were said about her. Some of us were like, wow, you know, this was the woman that we looked up to.
Yeah.
If some of these allegations were coming out, it was serious. And at that point, there was no reaction from the government to say, no, or she did this, or she didn't do this. Until now, all we were hearing was on social media that, oh, she wrote a letter signing acting president. To some of us, that was not a big issue. But there were some other allegations as to corruption, that she took some money from government to buy houses in Senegal and Dakar. So at that point, how did you handle all of this? You know, especially the things that were going on social media. It was a really big...
Actually, I'm not a fan of social media. I have a Facebook page that is managed by my last born, Nafi, and my son, Alpha. And from time to time, when I see something of interest to a country or the international community, I just make my own contribution, small contribution. But my children read it, and it was difficult for them. But they trusted that that is not the type of mother they have. They've always known that I'm not greedy. They've known that I'm not wanting. They've known that I am an honest person. And they've known that I don't look up to anything other than my country. So, in a way, it just passed away, and I'm happy that we all have, God gave us the courage to go about it. And it is not what people talk about you that matters. What matters is knowing yourself, the type of person you are, and knowing that you have integrity, which is unquestionable, and that you can sit with anybody and talk business.
Did you feel betrayed though at that point?
Yes, I felt betrayed. I felt betrayed.
By whom specifically?
I felt betrayed by the president, His Excellency Adama Barrow. But in my heart and hearts, I have forgiven him. And because it was not his making. He is the leader. He is the leader. But it was a process instigated by certain people, both on political and corruptive lines. So I have forgiven him, and I work very closely with him. And the matter is not, I have to continue working for my country. And what I'm saying, people can say anything that they want. They can claim of doing this or doing that in terms of blowing their own trumpet. But I am in no competition with anybody. My competition is with my God, my country. God, by doing the right thing, saying the right thing, respecting people, ensuring that the agenda that we fought, all of us fought for, is in line, is on track, and supporting my coalition government. This coalition government is our government. I will continue to support them 100% until we come 2021. That's the mandate of the coalition.
Before 2016, efforts have been made by political parties. During this time, you were not even on the how to say it, you were not on the scene.
Yes.
Those efforts have crumbled as a result of competition among flag bearers of the different parties. But when you came on board, we have seen that it became successful. And many people credited that to you. And that is the reason why we always see you as the face of the coalition. So was there any time after the elections that it crosses your mind that this moment would arrive where we would have major stakeholders not being as part and parcel of the coalition as they were before? Where did things start to fall apart?
Yeah, I first of all, I'm one person that doesn't do something for a reward. Fighting, working for my country is a divine obligation on each one of us, and everybody should take it as a mission. I will work, I'm working for my country in the process of working, if Allah rewards me with anything, I say Alhamdulillah. If I don't get it, I'm happy, because the reward is having accomplished something that God has wants us to do. Because He said in the Holy Quran, if your country or your leadership is corrupt, or you're seeing bad governance, or you're seeing things that you're not supposed to be done to the people, He said you're supposed to speak about them. You are supposed to engage those who are the leaders who are not doing the right thing. Otherwise, you can sit and just say that, well, I leave everything to Allah. And Allah will never come down for anybody. I was inspired by the Holy Quran. By the Holy Quran, one morning I was reading the Holy Quran while my husband passed away in 2007, and I was reading the Quran, and I saw that. I said, well, it's time for me to get up. And since that time, I am one person that doesn't like the limelight. I've been working underground. I've been engaging youths, women, different people, opinion leaders, without even people knowing it. Because people, I'm not doing it for a name. I already have a name, which was given to me not even by my parents. God has given me Fatoumatta before my parents knew I was going to be Fatoumatta, and He put it in their hearts to call me Fatoumatta. So I'm not looking for any name. If I am making a name, I've worked in the international community, in the UN, and my name, my records are still in the UN. I thank God for that. I was working for my country. And when I realized so many years the political parties had tried to become into coalition. They couldn't agree because everybody wanted to be a president. And if you look around, all of them, most of them have been in leadership without any change for how many years? Is that democracy? That's not democracy.
It's not.
Nobody is indispensable.
Democracy starts within the party.
It starts within the party, internal democracy, before you go to community democracy, you go to social democracy. All of them, most of the leaders are the face of their parties. So I said, I need to get up now and gather myself and see how I can contribute. I have never claimed to be the architect of the coalition, and I will never claim it. I'm a humble servant of God who wants to be part and parcel of whatever is good. And the little I know, the little I can, I will contribute. And those who are now trying to explain how the coalition came and claiming architecture, I have no time to waste to dignify their own aggrandizement. I have no time for that because I'm not in competition with anybody.
In fact, yesterday, Halifa Sallah at the National Assembly did say that you were co-opted in by Tambajang, who he had asked to chair the coalition. It was Dembo who brought you in.
Halifa has more, I would have expected him to talk about more substantive issues. The substantive issue was for the National Assembly members to ask questions about the statement of His Excellency the President, to ask clarification, to contribute towards refining the statement if necessary, and to contribute to making laws that would ensure that provide the government an enabling environment to deliver its program. That is the substantive issue that he should have focused on. I don't think my name, how the coalition came, and calling my name in Parliament, it makes me more important. Calling my name in Parliament when he is supposed to deal with Serkunda West and deal with national issues. I'm disappointed that he did that. I'm in no competition with Halifa Sallah. I started knowing Halifa Sallah and working with Halifa Sallah when the coalition started. I've known him many years, but I've never worked with him. So he should stop explaining to people. There is no need to explain. He can continue his self-aggrandizement. For me, I'm a humble servant. I'm a Gambian. I have a right to stand up. And what I have done for the coalition, he cannot erase from the history books. when my country needed me, I was in the forefront. In terms of talking, in terms of campaigning, and the way I came to the coalition, I was working with a committee called Concerned Gambians for Peace, Democracy and Development. I founded that organization out of the necessity of the situation. As a little contribution I had for my country. Then they had this inter-party. And I said, well, I think I can contribute a little bit. If I go to the inter-party, I can be sort of like a brokerage, a broker. And I can also lend a little bit of my expertise, my wisdom, little wisdom, to provide, to facilitate the process of consultation and dialogue. I wrote a letter to him. I mean, he wrote a letter to say that they had this GOFAD, they had inter-party, they had this, and that it is not necessary for other people, Gambians, to to duplicate their efforts. It was not a duplication of effort. I'm not a political party. I don't have a political party. I'm a civil society, and I have a right to organize myself, to mobilize. Not even a dime went into that committee. I was using my resources, traveling all over the world to champion the cause of the Gambia, calling international community, mobilizing resources, talking to them, asking them to support Gambia through my network as a UN expert and also as a Gambian citizen. Then when they wrote to say, I said, okay, I will attend the meeting. They invited me to, they were meeting at Kairaba. I went to the meeting. And when we were talking and discussing, Dembo, Honorable Dembo Bojang said, well, I think I would nominate my sister, Fatoumatta, to come and co-chair the coalition. Probably, based on the contributions I made, and he is a wise man, probably he thought if I come, I can make a difference. And I did make a difference, and Halifa Sallah cannot deny that. I did make a difference. Since I chaired the coalition, from that day to now, I'm chairing the coalition. And the coalition is not crumbled. It's not going back. The coalition is live today more than ever.
But
when I was in government, because I was involved in so many other things, but I used to engage all of them. From time to time, I will engage the political leaders so that to consolidate, to make sure that there is peace among them, so that there is support for the coalition.
In fact, that has been the argument that you guys abandoned the coalition when you were in cabinet. There was no single meeting held among coalition leaders. And then in the red flag was when my party was removed. This was a key stakeholder in the coalition. He was removed. And in fact, according to some of your members, according to the agreement, when a coalition stakeholder, when the president wants to remove somebody, there should be some kind of consultation. But mine was removed without those kind of consultations, and none of you did come up and make any. At least we did not see it. And then obviously the next person was you, and then Usainu Dawo, and then all of a sudden, you summoned the Kairaba. You started bringing the coalition. The argument is you abandoned the coalition when you were in cabinet.
That is not right. When I was in government, I engaged all the political leaders from time to time. I would call them to my office, including him, Isa Halifa Sallah. Call them to my office, engage them, ask them for their views, their advice as to how things are going. I used to have it constantly. And each time there was a crisis, I would convene a meeting with the political leaders. In every organization, if it wants to work, you cannot have the entire body every time. There are moments where you need just the core who will come and address certain issues. But I was constantly with the coalition, and I used to brief His Excellency. Each time I had a meeting with them, I would brief His Excellency about our meetings. And we did a lot of things. We did a lot of sort of like a dialogue in terms of how does the coalition go forward, like having a secretariat, having communication strategy, and institutionalizing the coalition so that there is a point of reference, because this is something that has never happened in the Gambia, and people would like to come and know and do research, and they need an institution. And besides, everything is on me alone: administration, writing letters, chairing, and so forth. So I thought we can have it and bring on board competent people who can man the secretariat. When I was, when the Honorable Mai Fati was removed, I spoke to many of the stakeholders. The first person I called was Honorable Usainu Dabo in my office.
That, yeah.
Honorable James Gomez. And I said, let's go and engage the president and plead with him to leave myself and Usainu. We went to meet His Excellency at Fajara, and we pleaded with him. He gave us good reasons his reasons why he removed him, but we pleaded with him that we did not want the coalition to break.
You didn't, that initiative was not done as a coalition?
I did it on behalf of the coalition. Honorable Usainu Dabo is for UDP. James was for PPP because OJ was not here.
Were the rest of the other members informed of this?
Yes, I informed them. I informed them. Even when we went to Kairaba, they raised the issue, and I told them, there are things that sometimes you do that you don't have to go out and say it. You are doing them because it is right. But Mai himself knows that we stood for him. What is missing is probably we should have gone as a coalition, entire executive, to His Excellency.
Not to plead, but to tell him, look, to remind him about the agreement that you guys put together.
Exactly. That was the missing point. And I accept responsibility for that. We went and we spoke to him about, not even pleading, but we spoke to him about the agreement, and we spoke about the need to leave the coalition so that things would not start, we can focus on work. And he thought about it, he explained his reasons for removing him, and I said, well, we have to keep the coalition. You need to help us to keep the coalition. He said, okay. Then he appointed him. He wrote another letter to say he's going to
become an advisor.
No, he was going to the Foreign Service. And during the Foreign Service appointment also, I have been engaging Honorable Mai. It's Mai who declined. He didn't want it. But that is public, that is a fact. Then Mai can come out and say that this happened.
But does that suggest, though, that, this is just besides the point, that the Foreign Service is becoming a dumping ground for the president?
Well, that is his own opinion. I cannot comment on that. Okay. He has the prerogative to hire and to deploy people where he wants.
But at that point, did it occur to you this was not a coalition government anymore? It's an executive president exercising his executive powers. He has powers to hire and to fire. At that point, did it occur to you guys that this is no more a coalition? At that point, when stakeholders were being removed, and even you, the chairperson of the coalition, was not able to reverse that decision. Did it occur to you at that point this was not a coalition?
That the president was acting in deviation
executive powers, because he has those powers.
Yes.
But for the coalition agreement, he did not have that. So he violated the coalition agreement and took up the executive powers that he had at that point. Even you, the chairperson of the coalition, was not able to reverse that decision. Did it occur that at that point?
It did.
That he was now an executive president, not a coalition president.
It did, and I did mention it, and I did discuss it with some of the political leaders, that we need to advise him to adhere, comply with the agreement. We discussed it, and in our various ways, we constantly reminded him that this is a coalition government, and he needed to stabilize this thing, the government.
Okay.
So many other things happen, like wanting to remove other people, but from that time, he listened to me and he never did. He never acted.
Yeah.
That I must give him credit for that.
So you did mention here that the coalition hasn't crumbled.
Yeah, it hasn't crumbled.
Yesterday, Halifa Sallah said the opposite, that it has indeed crumbled. And we can also make our assessment that the coalition we had in 2016 is not the one we have now. So between 2016 and up to now, what has changed, you think?
In 2016, we had everything in place. We had a government in place, a government that is working. The coalition people, leaders, are in government. They provided leadership in different institutions to have the NDP, to mobilize resources for the NDP, to stabilize the social fabric by stabilizing the country and making sure that there is security, human security. And then there was the people in the coalition who had no jobs or up till now are unemployed. We tried from now and then, we had some funding in the coalition. The money that was paid for the presidency was refunded to us because we won. So we put it in an account. For those who were unemployed, from time to time we will call them to my office, and I'm a signatory to the account, and Honorable James Gomez, and we will give them something. Tobaski or any other time when they feel they needed something, support, we will bring them together and this thing. And we champion their cause. In terms of
organization, though, in terms of membership, we have seen, for example, PDOIS, UDP, and GMC distancing themselves from your recent activities. So if you say the coalition hasn't crumbled, and we are seeing from the outside that it has torn apart from early on since 2019, what is your justification for saying that it hasn't crumbled?
Three parties, entities, living an organization doesn't mean it has crumbled.
They have the biggest democracy.
Major stakeholders.
They are the major stakeholder here. You don't have a major stakeholder because all of them had 70 delegates for the convention. Yeah. And that is who selected His Excellency the flag bearer. So you don't have any majority or minority. Everybody is an important stakeholder. My dream and my wish is for everybody to remain in the coalition. They left without a good reason for leaving. And I am trying, will continue to engage them, to dialogue with them, to encourage them to come back. The way the UDP left, the reason why UDP left, we were looking at the Memorandum of Understanding. We were trying to revise the Memorandum of Understanding because most of the things that we had said we were going to do were not achieved. So we thought we will bring it, align it into the present situation where it will reflect a coalition government and a coalition governance. They said we will have to sign the memorandum before we revise it. But I'm disappointed that they don't understand.
Is this to say, though, that the memorandum hasn't been signed?
The memorandum has not been signed.
Okay.
But they have forgotten that we did not bring the coalition together through a memorandum. It is an agreement, morally binding, between the coalition and the flag bearer. It is an agreement which spells out everything, 3 years and everything, and then into that we have the manifesto also. The manifesto is approved, unanimously approved, agreement unanimously approved by all stakeholders, that indicates the type of governance and the tenure of office of the flag bearer. So those are, for me, those are the instruments that guide the coalition. The Memorandum of Understanding is usually details of the agreement and manifesto. That is, there is a committee on all the committees that are in the Memorandum of Understanding are in the agreement and in the manifesto. So it is telling us the modus operandi of governance. How is the coalition going to govern as a coalition government? That was not signed because of competing priorities. We had 6 weeks to have a campaign, to have a nomination, to have an election. And we had competing priorities. We needed to mobilize resources. When we were going to the National Convention, we did not have a dime. When we went for the campaign, we started. People came all over, diaspora, local, everybody stood up for the coalition. So for me, it will be really unfair and dishonest on my part to say that I did this for the coalition. Everybody stood up for Gambia. Even the minority, those who did not vote for him, finally they know peace is indispensable. On the nomination day of His Excellency the President, I was sitting here till 3 a.m. We did not have sufficient money, 500,000, to pay for his nomination. I had to chip in my own personal money and also ask my son to bring some money to fill that gap. First thing in the morning, I went to pay the money for his nomination at the bank.
When you hear the president say, that, there were some statements when the president did say that he was the one who funded his campaign, even though we knew some of the efforts the diaspora community, yourself, you just mentioned what you did at the last minute to complete the money for the nomination. When you hear statements like that, what becomes your reaction, immediate reaction?
Well, I think it's a mistake. It's a mistake because he knows I was here on the ground managing the financing.
Yeah.
And I was working with them. Transportation, we had a budget of something, 20 million, I think. He contributed, and everybody contributed. He was not the only person who contributed. Everybody contributed.
So it's wrong to say that one single person contributed to...
Everybody contributed, and we acknowledge that they contributed. Diaspora, national, there are people who want their names to be known, others no.
Don't want to.
But everyone contributed. That was what they gave us, contributed to the National Convention, campaign, nomination, and everything. So I would say that he contributed, but we also everybody, other people also contributed. And now for the money, we are auditing the accounts. Because I was the chair of the National Convention, and the Finance Committee was under my overall supervision. We have now engaged an auditor to do the auditing, and after the auditing, we will publicize
the numbers, because
it's my integrity.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear in social media, hey, we sent it to Fatoumatta.
Yes.
Fatoumatta, this many of the monies that were raised were sent in my name.
Yes.
And
it's the right practice too. So
yes,
perhaps that would teach other organizations a lesson as well.
Exactly, and also I gave it to the Finance Committee. They had a budget, and they were supposed to adhere to the budget.
Yeah.
And we operated from my house.
Yeah.
This house was the coalition house.
Yeah.
And then finally, the coalition, we thought that since now everything's stable, we need to now look at how to work very hard and strengthen the coalition, give it the capacity it requires so that it can become a model in Africa. That's why when I was moved out, I had sufficient time to convene the coalition and to see how we can institutionalize it. There is no organization that will be built like your company now. You know the difficulties you had. Your own living all the luxury in America and coming to settle here. No institution can just be born, work and run, and just run.
Yeah.
It must have teething problems. I admit that we have had loads of challenges in the coalition. And we are meeting on a voluntary basis. But people who are meeting, most of them are unemployed. They need to be remunerated as a board, as any other board that is sitting. Sometimes you call, if they can come, they can come. And most of the time they come, despite their difficult financial situation, they would come to the meetings. Now when we came, we've been meeting, and then UDP said, because we did not go their way, which is we need to sign the memorandum before we revise it, they walked out of the meeting. Technically, UDP is right. Technically, UDP is right. Because if you have a document and the document is not signed, then there is no way you can revise it. If it is in draft, if it is in draft, you can revise it. And I must say that not 100% right, I say partly right, because the memorandum of understanding was in the process of, we were in the process of revising it to adopt it, to sign it. It has been adopted in principle, so it's a workable document. It's not like we just left it there and now we want to have it. So technically, they were partly right that we needed to sign the document, but it's a fait accompli.
But what prevented you from signing it?
We couldn't sign it because what it contained was not complied with. We cannot sign a document that is not relevant. The document, like you prepare a document and 2 years down the line you find that the provisions of the document either are not relevant or a stakeholder is not doesn't comply with it. And particularly it is the process. I'm talking about the process. It was not in the process of, it was not something that we should have signed. We did not come to the stage of signing. We were in the process of revising it when we had the elections and then things happened. We were overtaken by event. But UDP should have understood, they should have appreciated that it's the agreement that we have, and it is the manifesto that binds us. These are just the nitty-gritties. So they walked out of the meeting. And since that time, I invite them. We have a forum, a platform, and I don't see anybody attending the meetings. Then PDOIS wrote a letter. When I wrote to them to invite them to the meeting, they said they are no longer, the Secretary General, Honorable Halifa Sallah, said he was appointed by the executive to serve as a spokesperson, the coalition, and then him the spokesperson. And his mandate ended, 2018 and so forth, and that they are no longer they are no longer going to be part of any coalition talks. That was the reason they gave. Honorable Maifati's representatives have been coming to meetings. Until last month, they have been coming to meetings.
What about Honorable, the independent candidate, Dr. Aissatou Toure?
Yeah,
her representatives, her representatives present at the meeting with the president? Because was any of our representatives present?
No. What happened? He was late.
Okay.
He was late.
Okay.
He was late. We were already in, and we had left our phones to the security. Okay. He said he was at the gate, but I didn't access my phone until after that. Okay. We had said sharp to we were meeting the president, you come on time. Okay. He never came. So now that's what PDOIs have said.
My party statement though, the parties said they were not invited.
They invited.
They said the last time they were invited was May 16th.
No, I will bring my phone and you will see my party is on a platform, on the same platform. And each time there is a meeting, I call them and I personally also call them. He doesn't pick up his phone. I would text him and he doesn't this thing. For what he did yesterday for me is a betrayal of trust. Because he was coming, his representatives were coming until last month. And the issue of extending, the reason of extending, they were there. It was unanimously agreed upon. What we did not have was the meeting, which we had asked to be organized between us and the president. But they were all there. Now, for him to come out and say that he wasn't informed is completely unprofessionally uncalled for.
Okay, so we're going to go back to sometime this year when you convened a meeting at Kairaba, I think, when the 3 years, 5 years questions started to intensify. We were of the belief, we speculated on the media, on social media, that the president might have been the one behind that call to give him legitimacy to continue with his desire to serve for 5 years. But it turns out he wasn't at the meeting, and while the meeting was ongoing at Kairaba, he had a meeting at State House. That could have taken focus from your meeting as well. But what was the objective? Was the president behind this meeting, and what was the objective of your meeting?
For some time, we felt that the president had abandoned the coalition because we saw the emergence of other stakeholders around him. And it was difficult to access him. But since we are standing up for the country, I decided His Excellency had never communicated with me. I decided on my own to go to the meeting and explain to them that there is need for us to re-engage our flag bearer. He is our flag bearer. We are his constituency. We should re-engage him so that he comes back and continues with the coalition. I had that meeting with him, and he was very happy. He was very happy. And then we discussed the issues, and we are not, His Excellency has never, constitutionally, the president has 5 years. The issue of 3 years is a moral obligation. It's a social obligation.
We will come to that. That's controversial. But we will come to that. Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
So for us, we don't want to elect our flag bearer and leave him misguided, because we don't want to fail. If he fails, it is us who fail. So we are looking at it from the perspective of governance, not any personal interest. We reviewed the reform process and realized that the reform is incomplete. Constitution, without constitution, we will stick with, without a new constitution for Third Republic, we will not have two terms mandate, which we all are anticipating. There will not be change in constitution, in the constitution, it's going to be a status quo. Without electoral reform, we will not have a level playing field. Without the completion of the Truth and Reconciliation, leaving it hanging when it is donors' money, it's really not right. Land Commission, all the reform, because they are not completed, we discussed in-house with the coalition And we decided to use that justification to extend the mandate of the executive.
But does it occur to you or to anybody that government is an institution?
Yes.
It is not any regime's responsibility or even their obligation to finish any project that they have started. The expectation is they will do to the best of their ability and they will leave the rest to when this chance is there, if they come back for another term or if another regime comes after them, they would have to continue the process from there. So it doesn't make sense to have a justification as being that we have started programs that are incomplete, so we want to continue to complete those things. Because if you go, another set of people are going to come in and they're going to continue the process.
You have to have an understanding of how governance goes. This is a transition government. It's different from a normal government. A normal government is 5 years. After 5 years, if you perform, most times it's not based on performance in African countries. But if
Barrow's government goes to 5 years, then it ceases to be a transitional government. It becomes a normal government.
It is a transitional, extended transitional government. And it's dependent on the social legitimacy that the council, the coalition has given him. And also it's incumbent on the fact that the coalition is aligning to the constitution. The constitution takes precedence over every agreement in this land, in the world. That's universal. You cannot contest it.
Can we come back to that?
Yes.
Let's come back. Let's come back to constitution and mandate. We understand that the constitution says 5 years. The same constitution also says the president can resign before 5 years. The president can be removed before 5 years. And some other loopholes are there, or some other provisions are there as well. The constitutional mandate is a legal mandate. So it's not a must that a president should serve for the entire 5 years. Now, when you campaign on a platform, like the coalition agenda, and you sold that idea to the people, and it was based on that platform that they vote for you, that becomes your contract with the people. That is a social contract. So when you say social legitimacy, that's a different thing. But here is your social contract with the people, right? If that is for 5 years, that is your political mandate. If that is for 3 years, that is your political mandate. So the constitution have given you a legal mandate of 5 years, and the people have given you a political mandate of 3 years. So if you must now renege on that promise, it means you are violating your social contract with the people. And if the people are the ones giving you political mandate, they can also take it away from you. That means if people now come up and say, we want you to serve for just 3 years, they are within their rights to do so, right?
You have to understand the context. In a normal country, all these things are the ideal things that can happen in a normal country. But we are not, we are not coming from a normal country. We are coming from 22 years where you did not find the tools and resources that you require to work. You did not find them. And you have an agenda that you have delivered to the people. You have given them a political agenda that is 3 years.
Yeah. But it's precisely because of that fear of going back to the 22 years era that people are asking Barrow to resign after 3 years. Because Barrow had, for example, he had given at least two interviews where one he said, I'm going to serve for 5 years whether you like it or not. In another instance, he said, when you are campaigning, you can say anything. What that translates into is that you can deceive. You can deceive the voters, and that should be acceptable. Now, when people want to hold him to account for the things he said during his campaign, is to ensure that we are not going back to a regime where we can be taken for granted.
For us as a coalition, we are purely looking at the context from which we are coming from. It was a difficult context, and then people were passive. For 22 years, we just allowed things to go. So we were part of the landscape. We condoned dictatorship for 22 years. Now coming and finding a new environment, developing a new environment, we need an extension to do the work, the campaign promises that he made. Here the issue should now be the executive to re-engage the country, people, re-engage them, saying, well, the coalition has spoken, but I will also speak to you. This is exactly what the coalition has said, and this is what is happening. And now I'm urging us to work together and complete the 5 years. I will tell you one thing. In the past, we condoned with autocracy. Today is democracy. The people are more aware, and people are determined that what happened in the past will never happen.
That's true.
So come 2021, if we are appealing with the people through national dialogue, and we are asking nobody to be left behind. We want everybody to come in. Political parties, NGOs, media, everyone, academia, researchers, whoever can come, we have to re-engage the nation. We owe it to the nation to go back to the nation and tell them, this is what we had told you. But now we have found ourselves in this situation. So we crave your indulgence so that you can give us an extension to complete 2021. And you know, the thing is only 1 year, 2020. 2021 is campaign year. 2021 is campaign year.
So Vice President, that brings me to a key part of the agreement. I just wanted to know, was the 3-5-year mandate the only thing that you guys amended during when you were looking at the agreement? Because there's a key part also in the agreement which says, which the coalition partners agreed that the president, your flag bearer, should not rerun. He should serve for only 1 term, which was supposed to be 3 years.
Yes.
If you guys are meeting to extend it to 5 years, were you able to handle that part too? Because it seems like the reason why some of the political parties are not aligning themselves with the coalition is because there are signals that the president is going to launch his own party. So what happens to that part as well? Have you been able to discuss that? Did you discuss that with the president? Because I think the context during my interview with Halifa, the context where that was agreed on was so that no single person can have the advantage in next election. So that after the transition government, we all go fresh. Now it's up to people to sell their agendas, their different agendas to the electorate. But now that your flag bearer is the president, if he goes to rerun and set up his own political party, that means he has already the advantage as an incumbent. Was that part of the agreement that you looked at? Did you look at that part?
The agreement as is now, we have agreed in principle to extend his mandate because of this situation I'm saying. But I'm convening a meeting of the key stakeholders so that they can come and look at the agreement. And the extension that we have made is very clear to the whole world. We have said 2021. We have no plan to be part and parcel of any political party. We did not discuss it as a coalition. We are saying 2021. And we cannot preempt, neither can we speculate that he is going to have his own party. The dynamics, the coalition will react and act in line with the circumstances, prevailing circumstances as they unveil. Yes. For us, it's transition up to 2021.
Yeah. So let's try to qualify when you say the coalition has extended Barrow's mandate to 2021. We understand that it is the people that give mandate, and if there is anybody to extend mandate, it should be the people. So what does it mean when you said the coalition have extended Barrow's mandate? Is it to say that we support Barrow when you want to serve for 5 years? Or is it to say that we have given you the mandate, therefore that's final?
It's not final. From the point of governance, we have extended his mandate to give him the social legitimacy.
But the people can still reject your extension.
What now we have done our part. Now he is supposed to do his part. Of course, in concert with us. What we will do as a country, as a coalition, is to go to the people. Tell them this is what we have done, this is why we have done it, and we need your understanding. Everybody plays, it's a football game. It's a team. You do your part and you allow the other person to play his or her part. Within the context of peace and stability, we all know up till now we have ECOMIC here. The security reform has not been completed, and that is key. Constitutional reform, I do understand that a leader can die today, God forbid it, and things will continue. But within the system of governance, in a transition like this, if a leader dies, God forbid it now, within the system, it is within the system that they will provide another leader. Within the same system. Today, if we say elections, you have to have no money, voters' education. We have registration with these new young people that are coming. Probably the Constitution is going to give us to say that, well, the diaspora should vote. It is their right. We don't know what is going to be in the Constitution. There are so many anticipation that will come to the Constitution that is going to give us, the Gambians, more power to challenge the system of governance in terms of what is right for the government, for the country, for them to do what is right for the country. It is a complex situation, but we are pleading. We are not saying that our extension is final. That's why in my statement, everywhere I talk, I say we're going to have a national dialogue. And the dialogue must take into consideration the fragility of our country. Peace and reconciliation. It's 1 year. 2021 is campaign year. So, and the political parties, they are stakeholders. They're very important. And that's why I am not even thinking of leaving them behind. I don't have the decision to leave them behind. I'm there as a facilitator. And I will be chair of the coalition until the day they say, I no longer want you the chair of the coalition. I'm there to facilitate. I'm not there to impose. If I were supporting Barrow, I would have accepted his appointment to go to the Foreign Service. But I knew that was not the right thing for the coalition. I didn't want to leave the country and because I am foreseeing that these 3 years would be a challenging year. So should I promote my self-interest and go and be an ambassador, or should I stay in my country and continue to play a catalytic role in ensuring that my government succeeds and the country remains in peace and stability?
And finally, you're talking about a national dialogue, which a lot of people have also promoted to say there should be a dialogue. But a lot of people also agreed that that dialogue should not be led by the generals and security chiefs going to the national TV and speaking in tones that reminds us about what happened yesterday. In fact, some faces should not be leading that dialogue. And a lot of people believe the president himself should lead this dialogue because he is the one who has this contract with the population. even though the coalition, it was the coalition agenda, but people voted, political mandate was given to him. Do you think he should lead this dialogue?
Yes, he should.
And should we also...
That's what we have advised. He will lead it. That's what I said in at some point, that he has a responsibility to re-engage the conversation. So he needs to lead the dialogue. The coalition will just be supporting the dialogue, but he will lead the dialogue. And I don't agree with any other stakeholder leading the dialogue, particularly the military, security, whichever, civil service. We are talking about democracy. It is time that we depoliticize the structures of government, of governance. That is political, we go political. When it comes to governance, we go for governance. So I don't agree, and if I see it anywhere or I hear it anywhere, from the coalition perspective, we will advise His Excellency that they desist from that, because we don't want to be reminded of the past.
True.
Yeah.
So my final question is a simple one. Would you want to come back to serve in the government?
No. No.
Thank you.
No.
Sophie meew la bu sell te neex baax na ci halal ak mag yépp am na calcium iron protein ak vitamine yu bari Sophie full cream powder milk la am na 20 gram 200 gram ak 400 gram koko ñam dootu ko bàyyi Sophie proudly Gambian.
Better and stronger as the sole ground operator at the Banjul International Airport. With an expansion in travel services, customers are assured of GIA's capacity to cater for all their travel needs, provided by professional, experienced, and ever-smiling staff. GIA's Hajj package and services, by far the best in the country, give the customers the opportunity for a memorable Hajj experience. For a more efficient cargo services, GIA means business as it launches its new multi-million-dollar ultra-modern cargo complex to revitalize and stimulate air transport. GIA, the pride of the Gambia.
And of course, this is going to be a political question. So obviously you've been accused of wanting to be the president. That's why you were even fired. Are we looking at any perspective in the future of having you know?
Well, it's my constitutional right.
Yes.
But right now, I don't have the plan. It's my constitutional right.
When the opportunity comes, you will consider it?
If it comes at the right time, I will consider it.
Yeah.
If it comes at the right time, I will consider it. But for here to 2021, my focus, my priority, my energy, my mission is to ensure that the coalition government succeeds.
Final message to the viewers?
Final message to the viewers is for us to come together as a nation, work for the peace and talk for the peace. And to know that the country, we have all fought for the country to be where she is today. We don't want to go back. So I'm just craving to everybody, different stakeholders. Again, I'm not here for any self-aggrandizement. I'm just taking, it's a mission that God has given me. It's a mandate that the coalition has given me. Regardless of how I came to the coalition, that is not important. What is important is that I'm a Gambian and I'm contributing my quota. Yeah. And I plead with everybody to have that understanding. Different stakeholders, political parties, civil society, young people, media, academics, everybody, religious leaders must continue to pray for this country. We will all pray for ourselves, for the country, But I also call on the religious leaders who for me, in my thinking, are closer to Allah because that's their profession. It should be our profession, all of us, but they spend more time on worshipping Allah than us. So I'm calling on them, regardless of what type of religion. We are all praying to God and He's answering. He's listening to us. He's our only creator. I'm calling on them to continue to pray, to champion peace, reconciliation and stability for the country. This is our country. We have nowhere to go other than here. And we have worked so hard that these 3 years should not be an event that will come and divide our country. It will be a shame for Gambia to go back where she was. She wouldn't like that, and we wouldn't like that as elders. And people also should remember that as a senior statesperson of this country, I cannot sit and just wait people to say, calling me to do things. I have to use my sense of direction. I have a mission. Everybody has a mission. I have a divine mission. I have a divine mission, and the reason why I'm standing for my country is a divine mission that God has given me. It is nobody should claim that they gave me this work to do. If it is somebody gave me a job to do, when I finish the job, it's done. But this is a continuous mission that I will die for. I will stand up for it, I will die for it, and when I go, in any circumstances, I guess I will have also children who will continue to follow my legacy of peace and reconciliation, national unity, and prosperity for the Gambia.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We really appreciate this in-depth conversation. I think with all your interviews, this interview is going to give us an insight as to what really happened. I mean, why were you removed and all this, and also even the work of the coalition. Thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Nima,
much.
I just want to say that we are very grateful to have you, especially as a young woman, having somebody in your position and witnessing the role that you have played in that crucial moment in 2016. It has always been an inspiration for us. And hopefully when a situation like that, God forbid, arise, we will remember that somebody has done something and we will do exactly the same thing.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best, the young people.
Thank you.
We are doing everything for the young people.
Sure.
You need to stand up and be visible and be heard, particularly when it comes to promoting peace, national unity, and empowerment of young people, because at the end of the day, you will take over.
Sure.
When we are no longer there, we will only be advisors in the background. Our satisfaction, me personally, my satisfaction, is to see that in the next 5 years, this country has young people in different positions, and their voices can be heard, their priorities will be taken into consideration, and they can already start moving the next millennium to a better Gambia.
Thank you very much, Nima. Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. And this brings us to the end of this interview. Good night to you all. Bye-bye.